And from our 3 commissioners, which makes a quorum. Gerard, if you can just record the 3 of us that are here. Or Brian, I'm sorry, you're taking the minutes. I'm so confused.
Is Mike not here? Mike?
I can't tell if M is Mike or not.
He usually talks by now, so it's probably not him.
Yeah.
He was having a little bit of difficulties of signing on earlier, but I sent him the info.
All right. Well, let's just we're going to take this a little bit out of order just while we let people catch up and just briefly do the informal discussion about USA Waste's RDA filing, which they've now filed and there's a public hearing on. So what does everyone look like for next month's meeting?
All right, let's take a look. This month.
What's the date?
It's either the 10th or the 17th. Is it? Do we do the 2nd or 3rd Thursday? I forget.
I thought we did the 2nd. Is that right, Gerard?
Yeah, we ended up on the 2nd.
The 2nd is
Just
good
because,
for me.
just
I mean,
because
the 10th
that's
is good for me.
Yeah,
the 10th is good for you. Harrison, number for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we'll schedule that public hearing on that RDA for the 10th at 6 p.m.
Okay, great.
It'd be nice to do it in person, although it's sort of hard to figure out. So maybe we'll be in touch with what we decide.
Sure.
The likelihood of having it in person is probably.
We need to decide sooner than later because of the posting needs to be a week ahead of time. So
right. So it has to be in at the paper by next Thursday.
Yes. Mark, I will get that drafted to you so you can make arrangements for the Gazette.
Thank you.
I don't know if I have your email. Do you have a good email that I could have, Mark?
Yes, it's the one that you received the RDA on.
Oh, that is you. Okay, I apologize. I thought that was Jonathan. I apologize.
No, it's Mark at heritagesurveys.com.
Yeah.
My inclination is just to schedule it to be online because we can for sure do that. So, I mean, and it's not a very complicated application and I don't think we need it to go through a lot. So let's just do it for online on the 10th.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you all.
Okay.
And
we'll see you on the
10th, and I'll get you the time when that swale was installed. So you have that for your records.
Wonderful. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
I'm going to, here's Bernie. Bernie, have you spoken with Chris Chamberlain? He sent me an email about having difficulty finding the link.
I just resent him the link.
And is he attending? Assuming he's attending.
I just got a text from him saying the agenda doesn't have a live link, but the old agenda link works.
There's actually two places you can click on for meetings. One is the link for the hearing, and that has the agenda. I mean, it has the link to get onto the. I'm sorry, I've had a long day.
Chris.
Hello, this is Chris Chamberlain.
Hi, Chris.
From Berkshire Design. Hey, so what happened was the agenda got posted as a scan, so the link was not live. There's a few of us that are dialed into, I guess, the meeting that was set up for the previous agenda. Mike from the commission's over there, and also Peter and his people for that item.
Well, there is on the Town of Hatfield website on the meeting calendar. There are 2 events for tonight. One says Conservation Commission and one says Conservation Commission hearing. The one that says Conservation Commission hearing has the live link.
Okay, great.
So just see if you can maybe give that a shot. Town of Hatfield.
Okay, yep. I see that here. I'll let these other folks know about it also.
Thanks so much.
And hopefully we'll join you in just a minute.
Okay. You know what I'm going to do while we're here is Chris was nice enough to send me higher resolution versions of these plans. Maybe I'll forward them to you guys so we can look at them.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it's hard to even read the ones we had.
It really is.
I can't remember, is it ATCA Associates or ATCGS? Brian?
ATC, I actually have a new one, but ATCGS will work.
Okay.
Should work anyway.
And I think you're saying, okay, so those should be coming to you. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry,
Venture.
were there a lot of people in this other phantom room?
There were 4 of us, and they all have instructions on how to get here. Hopefully, they'll be able to follow them.
Okay, I'm on the, I'm assuming that maybe there's some members of the community. I'll have to just give them a minute or two to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think it was Mike as well as a few people with Peter on the enforcement order.
Right.
Hi, this is Catherine Cabaroli.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry for the confusion.
Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Like,
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm glad you made it through.
Yeah, I was on another conference ID, but I'm
Yeah.
here.
All right, great. Well, all we
Alternate
did, Mike,
universe.
and I hope it's okay. We did schedule our next meeting for the normal second Thursday of next month to hear USA Waste's RDA, and that'll be the 10th
The 10th.
February. Yeah.
Okay. I believe that others will be joining,
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Grandonico, and also their daughter.
Yeah. Their daughter, I believe, is here. She introduced herself, and we're just waiting on everyone else.
Okay. And there was another gentleman from Berkshire.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Mike.
Perfect. January 10th, you said. No, what? February 10th?
Yes, February 10th. I'm sorry. I may have said January, but it's February.
6 o'clock again?
Yeah.
All right, very good.
So if as people are able to join, if they can just sort of announce themselves. It's a little hard with the phone calls because they're just little circles at the bottom of the screen. All right.
Is everyone enjoying this cold weather?
Not especially. It'd be nice if there was some more snow. Sounds like there might be some.
Yeah, we're supposed to gather up some this weekend.
I can't see anybody.
No, you won't.
Oh,
You're just on phone.
okay.
Okay. So I think that's everyone. Maybe we can do a little roll call. Gerard, you can see everyone who's here. Or Brian, do you have a sense of, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 people here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And oh, me. Yeah, I forgot myself.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Can I just verify some phone numbers?
Go for it.
9800. Who would that be?
Catherine Cabaroli.
All right, 6121.
That's Mike. Hey,
And then 2512.
That's my wife, Kathy.
How do you know?
Right. So this seems like everyone from that other room is now here.
I think that's right.
Okay, so we will, if you don't mind just taking these briefly out of order, my inclination is to have a brief discussion as to the status of our enforcement order for 48 Main Street. Mr. Grandonico, are you here? I did get an email from Gerard where, well, why don't you explain to me where you're at with that instead of me trying to summarize what was in your email?
Who am I speaking to, please?
I'm sorry, this is Bob Hennessy with Share.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, how are you?
I sent over a email to Town Hall explaining that my PE, Paul Steispec, had told me he was unable to do a plan. He was unable to attend the first meeting, which he did not tell me about till after that. He was with one of his children at a ball game. And the second meeting, I believe it was the day of, the morning of, he called and said that he was in the hospital with his son, who had a skiing accident, and I attached that to the email that was sent to you all.
Sure.
So that you would know exactly where I was with that problem.
Okay.
That I wasn't trying to skirt the issue, but so you've seen that. Everybody's seen that.
Yeah, I did see the unfortunate stretcher photo.
But you understand. Is everybody listening to this so they all know?
Yep.
Oh yeah. This is as if you were at the meeting. Everyone is here and listening at the same time.
Okay. So where am I from there? So let me gather my thoughts after that. Then I had submitted what I thought was an acceptable plan to do exactly what the addendum that you had sent me said, which was the removal. And then I believe you emailed me this afternoon.
I believe I mailed you a few days ago. Yeah.
I believe you messaged me and said that that was not acceptable, that I had to go further than that. So my question is, what would you like me to do? I'm fine with doing everything that you had requested, and I had hired Eric, what's his name now, Moose.
Yeah.
And he thought that there was enough that his machine would go through the process that was there and start the removal.
Yeah.
So that's where I am, Bob.
Okay.
What would you like me to do?
What I would like, we had expected you would do. I mean, I did see your email, which basically it's just sort of a restatement of what we said was going to be necessary to remediate the issue, right? which was the removal of the fill and blah, blah, blah. There's 5 bullet points.
Yeah.
You know, what we were expecting was that you would work with an expert to determine how to do those things safely and without further impacting the resource area.
Well,
It says,
Bob,
think
let
of
me,
it this
let me
way.
tell you,
Yeah, go ahead.
let me tell you that was exactly my intention.
Sure.
But you saw what happened with with my guy. Now, I think I could safely do all that. We didn't touch the dike; it just poured gravel on top of it.
Yeah, but I
don't know why I can't just remove it. And then I've already bought the seed for the spring. My intention is to plant wildflower seeds, which I believe covers the herbaceous and woody species. But I have those already. They're sitting in my house. That's really what I'd like to do, is get started on it right away and get this behind me.
Sure, no, I understand that. So my question is, well, one question first is, when you engaged with Mr. Styspeck, what were you going to ask him to do?
The very same things that you asked.
You were going to ask him to develop a plan to present to us? Is that right?
Say that again, please.
So you engaged him with the idea that he would present us with a plan for doing this stuff?
That's correct.
So the fact that his son broke his leg, I don't think eliminates the need for someone to do that.
Well, I can't speak to that.
Tell him about the people you contacted.
If he, I'm just going to look for a new person. If you won't accept me doing it on my own.
I think that would be best. Yeah, I think you should find a new person to prepare the plan. Because, you know, I realize that all you did was go up and dump those loads of dirt on the dike, but removing it with heavy equipment is a wholly different project.
Yes, it is. It is. And I at the first meeting, I recall that one of your members suggested that it might be more detrimental to the dike to remove it than to leave it in place.
Which meeting is that? Remember.
And when Styspeck went over and looked at the situation, his first words were, "I think you should leave it right where it is." But that's, well, he's no longer in the picture, so I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's an easy removal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to make of an expert telling you to leave 10 truckloads of fill on the edge of the river when each day the debt remains there is a separate violation of the law.
I think you held on to an estimate that I don't really know, and I think you settled in on 10 truckloads, and I honestly don't think that that's correct. But you and I were having a conversation, and you asked me to guesstimate, and I did. And you took a high number, and you stuck with it, but that's okay.
Well, you know,
the point is I want to make it correct, to put it back to what it was, and move forward.
Okay, great. Well, then I think, I mean, I'd be happy to hear from any other members on this point, but I think the next step would be is to find someone available to prepare the plan that Mr. Styspeck was going to prepare.
Bob, if I can interfere with this.
Of course, yeah.
So, I mean, there's vehicles that drive on the top of the flood dike as it is, okay?
Yeah.
With I believe either a backhoe or a excavator on top, as long as it's not, below or under or whatever, would be able to go ahead and lift this material, and you'll probably most likely see the green grass that it was put on, and that would be the limitation. That's where they would have to stop. If there's a yard or two that's sitting and remaining and gets raked off in the spring, would add to the strength of the dike, as long as, you put the grass and whatever, Mr. Grandonico has to, for the cover crop itself, should bind right in and not, as long as it's not interfered with the original dike surface below the grass line, then it should be adequate to go ahead and regrow and be fine. That's all I'm going to say right now. So
Yeah.
if there's an excavator and it's on the top of the dike, it's no different than people, as long as it's not turning on the dike, or, as long as it's unloaded and it rides within the roadway of the dike and not down off the side or anything like that, it should be fine.
Mike, I can, when I talked to Eric, I addressed that with him, and he said he's got an equipment that's large enough to stay in one place, basically, on the dike, and can reach it all, because it's not, you're talking about 10, 12 feet, I think, that was put in there, and set his truck on the other side of the dike, and he won't even have to ride on the dike to take it away, because I own the two properties, and he can come right out on the main street on my existing property that butts my daughter's house and the house that I own with the white pillars at 54 Main Street.
So
I just feel that if the material is taken out with a small remnants of, a yard or two, it's not going to, as long as you're not cutting into the dike, if there's a little bit left where in the springtime you can use that to pre-seed, then you should be, I personally think that it should be fine. That's my opinion of it.
So this is Brian Williams. That's all well and good. It sounds like, maybe that could be part of the plan, but like anyone else who's going to do work on a riverbank, we expect to see a detailed plan stating exactly how this is going to be done, so we can review it and maybe modify it and then finally hopefully approve it. But we can't just sit here and talk about it.
Oh, Brian, this is Peter. It's not the bank. It's not. Have you looked at it, Brian?
Many times. I walk by it all the time.
Okay, so it's not on the bank of the river. It
Absolutely is. It is. That's considered the bank of the river.
Okay.
In our world.
Okay. All right.
So, where things remain now, Harrison, do you have any comments beyond what we've said so far that you want to be heard on?
I'm just going to reiterate that there is no formal plan that was brought forward to us, and we can't do anything till we see something of that sort. So the commotion back and forth, I don't think is worth our time. The plan needs to be presented to us. Kind of how I see it there.
Who's speaking, please?
My name's Harrison Bardwell, sir.
So I think then a plan. So what are we asking Mr. Grandonico of? To get a professional person that is going to write out a plan?
Yeah, so what I'm expecting is that you're going to hire a credentialed expert to go in, make an assessment of the impact of your work in the protected area, and present us with a specific plan of how to remediate it without causing further damage.
Okay.
So Peter, are you willing to do that?
Who's speaking?
Mike.
Yes, I am.
But when does this happen?
Oh, well.
Happen?
We'll do it as soon as we can.
Well, it could happen. This could happen in May, and it could all wash away.
This is my wife Kathy speaking.
Yeah. So we could, it could happen.
So
Right.
I'm sorry, Kathy. This is Bob Hennessy again. When you say when does this have to happen, are you talking about presenting us with the plan or doing the actual work?
No, it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that, the river comes up, the river goes down, and, dirt washes away. That's all.
Well,
So Bob,
go ahead.
so Bob, back in if we have a flood season, what she's presenting is that if we have a flood season where water comes up,
Mm-hmm.
it's a percentage of it could be washed away. And we've seen it in the past, in the 80s and before. So that's what I think Kathy's talking about.
Yes, I am.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The water typically rises to just about the bank of the river every year, and every once in a while things get a lot worse. Those of you who have been in town long enough remember when we had the flood in back of my house, the Grodnick's, all the way to South Street and back to the center of town. And you'll also none of you probably know that my wife was instrumental in getting the Army Corps of Engineers to lend us a pump that we got out of Rhode Island. And the Swarzlowskis were nice enough to loan us the pump. And George Zagrobnik was nice enough to loan us his hole. And we pumped the center of town out for about 2 weeks. Then my family and I grabbed all the shad that were left over and put them back in the river. So, I mean, it can be very nasty back there. But it's only happened once to us.
Yeah, I think that might be a little far afield from what we're talking about now. I think that, these possibilities and eventualities are things that, can be raised with your expert when your plan is presented. They can be made part of the remediation plan. Whether or not there's a more or less advantageous time to do this work based on seasonal water flow. All of these things can certainly be topics of discussion with your expert, who will then present their plan to us.
Sure. I will.
With that said, it seems to be a question mark as to when it might be best to do the remediation work, but when do you expect you're going to be able to engage with an expert? We do have a list of them. There's no shortage of people who do this work in the Pioneer Valley. So what is your hope to hold out for Mr. Styspeck or find someone new?
No, I'm going to find someone new. If you would send me the list of your people who are available. Have you talked to any of these people as far as their time, or do you just have a list?
No, but I think there's just a list of people who do this sort of work. It's not like we recommend any particular person. It's just sometimes helpful.
Sure.
I
would just like you all to know, and that I've contacted Alan Weiss from Belchertown. I've contacted Bill Saruda from Leverett. I've contacted, Brendan Monahan had a fellow who I used once before, but he has retired.
I don't think Mr. Monahan's a heavy equipment operator. That's not the kind of expert we're talking about. We're talking about someone who can assess the impact.
Wait a minute, Bob. Is this you?
Yeah.
So once again, you misunderstand me.
Uh-huh.
I'm telling you the people that I contacted.
Okay.
And I used Brendan, and he had a person who did this type of work.
Gotcha.
Before he contacted that person for me and said that he was retired.
Okay.
And I am now going to be contacting a person. I'm assuming you're recording every word I say. I am contacting Bucky Sparkle is his name.
Okay.
And I got your message today. I called Randy Iser, who is a surveyor, which we probably all know, and asked him for his help and who he might be working with, someone that he would recommend to me. That's who he did. And he said, well, make sure to tell him that I will have to shoot the topography for him. So it is not as though that I didn't jump on this as quickly as I realized that you would not let me do what I said I would do in writing to all of you.
Oh, and I'm sorry if I left the impression that I thought that was the case. I thought it seemed like you were trying to engage someone who had some family difficulties that made it impossible for him to do it. And all I'm doing is trying to get a sense of when you may be able to engage someone else. I wasn't suggesting you were avoiding
I
it.
have no idea when I will be able to engage somebody else, but I am on it like white on rice. And I put it in writing to all of you. I think that if you would all give me a fair shake, you understand that I didn't think I was doing anything that hasn't been done up and down that dike for as long as I've been in town. There are holes all over the dike. If you go to the end of South Street, the town put a hole through the dike for a road. If you go to the end of Valley Street, the town put a hole through the dike for the road. I mean, that's, realistically, this is not I don't believe it was a huge deal. It was basically so I could get at my property and mow it and keep it clean.
Okay.
And I think that's what it was all about. And I'm sorry that I did it. Frankly, I'm sorry that I started the renovations of all those houses that I did in the center of town. I really am, because I think a large part of this is because of that.
I don't know what that means, but I think we're done. We'll put you on our agenda
exactly what I mean,
for the fifth. What? Oh, I just mean I'm not sure the connection to the renovation.
I said you know exactly what I mean, Counselor.
People are envious.
I'm really sorry that it ever happened. So what a few yards of gravel in order for me to get to my property and maintain it has started is something I certainly never wanted. I'm sorry I did it. I'll correct it.
Great. Sounds good. So I guess we'll put this over to our next meeting, which is on February 10th.
Well, I wish you wouldn't. There's one more thing I have to say. I understood that there was some sort of a difficulty in reaching me, that people couldn't reach me. Now, my daughter lives directly across the street from the town hall. She is directly across the street from where Harrison has his farm stand. Other people on the board know and either rent from me or have relations who rent from me. So for anyone to say that they could not reach me is just not accurate. And I left both of my telephone numbers with you. I'm on call 24 hours a day with my other business, and you have all numbers now. So there should be no trouble with anyone reaching me whatsoever.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Great. Thank you very much. By the way, your assistant did ask for and receive, I think his name is Jared.
His name is
Just one second here, please. Gerard. He asked for and was given by another town official my telephone number twice. The first time he came and said he lost it, and the second time he wrote it in his notebook. So I'm, as you can hear in my voice, I'm a little irritated that people would say that they can't get me when I've been given my phone number to all of you.
Okay, well, I'm sure that won't happen going forward. I personally never had any trouble getting in touch with you, so I can't speak to that. But sounds like we're all set now.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate you, every one of you, and every one of you that's farming to keep the Hatfield what we all love about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Good evening.
We'll see you on the 10th. All right. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is the request for determination of applicability. This is a public hearing concerning the, I'm just going to read the notice of public hearing so we have it on the record. Okay, so the Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing by remote on January 27th at 6 p.m. on a request for determination of applicability under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 in the Hatfield Wetlands Protection Bylaw, filed by the Smorowski Brothers, LLC, applicant, who are proposing to construct a marijuana cultivation facility on land off Straits Road. Complete application can be reviewed at the town hall. All right, so, and there's been a substituted plan based on our conversation at our last hearing. Is that right? Or
Yes.
an updated plan? Which I've had a chance to review, and now I've had a chance to review in high resolution. I can't tell you how difficult it was to read the version I had. But we are, is there anyone here to be heard on this project? Just in terms of, I see this.
Yeah. So Chris Chamberlain, Berkshire Design, Bernie Smorowski's here as well, and Jared Glansberger, who's consulting with Bernie on the project, is online as well.
Great. So let me just orient myself. I have your. So you're looking for a negative determination that some of the work is maintenance of land and agricultural use, and others is work that doesn't meet that exception but will not alter, dredge, fill, etc. the buffer zone. Is that right?
That is work in the buffer zone that won't alter the resource area.
Yes. Okay. And I have one preliminary question. With the replaced culverts, there's on the plans, there's references to note 8, which I assume is one of these drawings of the actual work, which only goes to 7. Am I missing something?
Oh dear.
Replace existing culvert, note 8, and then the last page has all the different schematics of the different things, but it only goes up to 7. So there's not really a clear description of the work to replace the culvert.
Interesting. I need to check one thing because there seem to be some missing notes, and I just want to look at my source drawing, which I can look at myself. Apologize for that confusion. Yeah, because I'll say I did write out a note explaining that work, and I'm not clear why I'm not seeing it at this moment, and I worry that there may have been a.
Yeah, it wasn't in the application or in the updated version you sent me, so.
Yeah, I'm looking at that plan right now and surprised that I'm not just able to point it right out. You bear with me for just one moment.
Sure.
I have a feeling I know the answer. I'm just about to confirm it.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm looking at the source drawing, and I have those notes on a no plot layer on my CAD drawing, which means it shows up on the screen but then fails to PDF, which I didn't notice as I sent these out.
Invisible ink or something.
That's literally what it is. I suppose there's a bit of a procedural question because what we submitted does not have those notes. I am certainly able to recreate that PDF with the notes turned on and send it, and also display it on the screen. And I'm wondering if that's satisfactory or if that creates any issues because of what we submitted before.
I just thought I mean, obviously there's no one here. It doesn't appear like there's any members of the public here, but the plan being on file at least suggests that there shouldn't be any substantive changes to the plan considered at the hearing. But I don't. Well, maybe we can attack that from a different angle. It's your position that that work is normal maintenance of land and agricultural use?
Correct. And in our narrative, I cited the language out of the description that covers the work in question. And sorry, I'm now caught between two screens. I apologize for stuttering a little bit. So I guess I'll state what our design intention was, which is note 8. Plan proposes replacement of 3 existing culverts. Culverts shall be replaced in kind with new double wall HDPE to the same size, location, and grade as existing conditions. Work shall be done in the dry, and all disturbed areas shall be protected with erosion control barrier at the end of the work day. And so as I included in the work narrative, so that again, as we sort of got into last week, there is the definition of the land and agricultural use, which I think is even more clearly applicable in this case, because under the work we're contemplating at this moment, those 3 rear fields would remain in traditional agriculture. So the question of if they become marijuana fields as part of this work is we would say moot at this point, even though we think that the cultivation of marijuana still qualifies as land and agricultural use. We fully. Sorry, what's that?
I said I tend to agree with you at this point on that point.
Great.
I did reach out and speak to the DEP, who said that they have no guidance on this point, which, but that the insofar as the purpose of the law is to, or the purpose of the exception is to recognize the necessary impact of agriculture as a endeavor on wetlands. I mean, this is a plant. It is not. I mean, yeah. So my inclination is to. I'd be happy to hear from anyone else. That's not a stumbling block for me at this point. Now it's just a question of whether the work fits within the normal maintenance aspect of things.
Great. And I think that the last piece, just for added comfort, is that the state legislature included language in the zoning statute that says, for the purposes of this section, marijuana is defined as not agriculture, and they made no such change to the Wetlands Protection Act. Further just suggesting that they realized that marijuana would qualify as agriculture absent that language. So then we turn to the question of the work and the definition of normal maintenance of land and agricultural use. And for that, with the culvert replacement, we look at a section of the definition of normal maintenance of land and agricultural use, which we quoted in the narrative, which includes the cleaning, clearing, grading, repairing, dredging, restoring of existing man-made or natural water management systems, such as reservoirs, farm ponds, irrigation systems. And then it specifically states field ditches, cross ditches, canals, channels, grass waterways, dike subsurface, drainage systems, watering facilities, water transport systems, vents, water storage systems, all in order to provide drainage, prevent erosion, provide more effective use of water, or provide for efficient use of equipment, and all for the purpose of maintaining favorable conditions for ongoing growing or raising of agricultural commodities. And so in looking at these culverts, I think certainly their original installation, allowing access between these different fields while also carrying drainage water from the ditches out to the natural wetlands and providing for favorable drainage of the fields is pretty clear. The concern is that over the future life and use of this property after Bernie's organization acquires it, is that the culverts need to be replaced at some point, and probably sooner rather than later, or we could potentially negatively impact drainage in the fields. The goal with the other piece of exempt land, of potentially exempt work, is to improve that access so that we can more easily travel between the roads. And so that seems like the opportune time to make that upgrade. And based on the definition that we read, it seems to fit right in there of the necessity of maintaining these existing water management systems in a way that's described in that section of the regulations.
So you think of the culvert itself, which you'll be replacing rather than repairing, as just repairing the larger water management system.
Yes, exactly. And you know, in addition, it's a little ambiguous, but subsurface drainage systems you know, as I read all of these examples of the sort of water management infrastructure, it seems to me that the conduit that connects two of these what were originally man-made ditches is clearly right in line with this idea that you know, in order to create favorable growing conditions, there's a necessity to manage water in an agricultural field. Those systems, because of the way the wetland regulations are written, will inevitably take on the characteristics of wetlands, but that it's appropriate under the agricultural exemption to allow that infrastructure to be maintained and replaced in order to let it continue doing its job.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What's the purpose of replacing the culverts? Are they in poor condition?
Yeah, I think Bernie can speak a little bit more to that, as he spent a lot more time out there assessing everything.
Yeah, they need to be upgraded, Brian. They're just, we don't know exactly how old they are, but they need to be upgraded, just for safety too.
Okay.
Is there going to be, is it because there's going to be a different type of traffic going over them, or is it because they're just falling apart regardless of whether something else is driving over them?
Well, there'll be tractors going over them, which there would be now. But you know, potential for trucks, but you know, trucks aren't necessarily going to outweigh a tractor, so they need to be maintained and upgraded.
All right. So, okay, so it's the culverts. And in addition to that, the other item is the access road improvement. That's the other aspect of this work that you're relying on the.
Correct. Yeah. So in the existing condition, primarily at the field edges, there's access between the fields that sort of culminate at these existing wetland crossings with the culverts. And the intention is to, you know, maintain the same alignment of that access, and of course to make use of the existing wetland crossings, but just to improve the surface so it's more easily traversed back and forth. And again, out of the definition of normal maintenance of land and agricultural use includes the quote repair or replacement of existing access roads and livestock crossings. So you know, to me, that means that as long as we're maintaining these access routes in the same location, that we are able to resurface them as you know, essentially as needed to maintain whatever access Bernie wants, really, to those different fields.
Yeah. So in terms of I'm looking at. And I suppose I could share the overall site plan. Now that the existing roads are the ones to that little strip to the west. Is that right? And then there's like a.
Yeah, and I can show.
Yeah, if you can show us which ones are existing.
Yeah, and you know, I'll admit that there's a level of interpretation as to
whether these exist,
as to how much of a road they are, because there's clearly traffic, you know, tractors and whatnot going back and forth. It's a lot more distinct as you get to the crossing. Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen while talking, which is probably a bad idea. Here we go.
So this is Mike. I would like to, I'm going to interrupt for a minute. What type of culvert structure are you projecting to put in? Is it a structure that's already pre-made? Or you just, can you explain that, and what type of material that you are going to put on the roadway?
Sure. So the culverts would be a single length of the ADS double wall HDPE pipe that's smooth on the inside and corrugated on the outside. We like the strength of that material and the fact that it can't corrode like a metal culvert would. And the road material, we're proposing a trap rock gravel surface for that.
Okay, so as far as the culvert itself, are you just using stone and earth to, for the ends? I mean, you're talking about tractors, trucks. So are you just talking about putting earth at the entrance and the exit of these culverts, or would it be concrete and then with a pipe going through that?
Yeah, so we're
earth material in between it.
Yeah, so we are not proposing concrete head walls. There would be a flared end fitting on the end of it, which provides a nice transition from soil to pipe. And then, sort of replicate the embankment around the ends and reseed with native seed mix to restabilize it.
Okay, so have you gone out there and actually seen how much water persists through the culverts now?
I will admit that I have not been out during a rainstorm, no.
Okay. All right. So my concern is that when it's winter and now we've got the ability of, the thawing and how much actually drains through there, and nobody's calculated that yet?
We did not do a drainage calc on those locations. We certainly could. We can.
Will you be doing something like that?
Yeah, we certainly can. The intention was to replace them in kind, but we certainly can verify whether they're appropriately sized or not, or whether we should change that.
I have to say, I'm a little confused that this part of the work is not included in the details section of your application, where the specifics of the fencing, the specifics of the paving, the specifics of the erosion control, et cetera, are all included, but not the specifics of the installation of a new culvert.
Sure.
Between two existing jurisdictional areas, or crossing a jurisdictional area, being built inside of it. That's a little, is that just, was that in your notes that you were talking about with number 8, or was that ever drawn out for the purpose?
Yeah, it was included in the notes. We did not draw it out for this application, and admittedly, probably because, we're looking at this as exempt activity, if the commission were to deem it so, as something that can be done as improvement of agricultural land. So I may have overlooked including detail that would be helpful to explain this in the plans.
Yeah.
So I have another. Sorry, I have another question. I'm not looking at your map and overlay. Where is the water going to go from this area is what I'm asking. And is the area that it's going to flow exit to, and obviously it's going to probably go to the Mill River along the path of 91. Is it going to, from where you are to finally when it flows, is the capacity going to, is it going to hold back or is it going to flow through? Is there enough of capacity to exhaust this flow and get it to where it needs to go downflow?
Yeah,
In other words, are there existing culverts or existing water pathway drainage? In other words, is it going to flow properly from this property and then all of a sudden congest and create a problem for someone else?
Right. So these ditches appear to collect water primarily from this property and some of the land to the north of it, which if you could see on the plan, and the others can, there's a heavily saturated field immediately to the north that works its way through these ditches. They discharge off-site, well, both within the site and off-site, to an area that is not cleared, that's wooded. We did not have our wetland scientist obviously go on anybody else's land, but the wooded areas on this property are all wetland, and we expect that continues through all of those woods. So that's to say that the water that flows from and through this site works into a very large wetland system that's just off-site where things are spread out. And I guess the other piece of that question was, the reason we were looking to replace these culverts in kind was to the extent that they are allowing flow or restricting flow moving through the site in the present day, is we wanted to match that so that we were not changing conditions either really within the site or off-site.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I just worry about, there's a small farm right there, some people that just decided to farm in that area, and if there's water flowing or by their property, what's going to happen with that? Does it, or anybody's property, is it going to exit thoroughly? I want to make sure that it does.
Yeah, and so the intention is to try to really keep things as they are for decades into the future, just as they have been in the past, by replacing these culverts before there's a problem and replacing them in a way that's substantially similar to what's there today.
Okay, well, right now the property is draining, and it's most likely draining into the soil, whether it's snow, rain, or otherwise. With your culverts being clean and everything, and now you have some stone roadway, and then you have collection from the greenhouses or whatever rooftop buildings of anything that's existing. I hope that it would flow properly. Each time you install a gathering of water, and it needs to go somewhere. So that's my concern.
Yeah, and certainly the greenhouses, which again are mostly outside of the buffer zone, those we still need to work through the whole planning board process before that would go through, and that would include a requirement for a stormwater management system. So at least, that portion of the land would be designed so that the runoff does not leave any faster than it does today. And certainly you're right, in that area in particular, as we cover all of that land with roof, it is important to account for that balance.
Okay. Have you ever decided to do a drill test in that property at all to see what's underneath that topsoil? Is it, because from that whole portion, if you look at the whole existing map of it is, I don't know what's underneath that soil, but it's always been a vast, when it's wet, it is slippery wet. So I'm not, is there clay underneath it? Is there red stone underneath it? Why is it always wet there? So I'm asking it, are you wanting or willing to do a couple of test bores?
So I'll say that in order to do the stormwater system that we're going to need for the greenhouses, we'll absolutely be needing to do test pits and a soil evaluation to see what types of soils are there and exactly where the groundwater is, so we can design that appropriately. We have not done that to date because that's part of sort of that bigger effort that's outside the buffer zone, but it's absolutely something that we're going to need to do.
Yes, thank you for answering that. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. So, okay, so those are the two. I mean, frankly, I would be curious to actually take a look at these existing farm roads and see, like, how to determine whether or not this is within the current footprint, if that's even determinable. But moving, I mean, in terms of the second request was a determination of whether or not the work that is not exempted under the agricultural exemption and within the buffer zone is going to alter that area. And this is the one I'm frankly having a little more trouble getting my head around, because it looks like, how long is that section of 12-foot wide road in the buffer zone? I'm looking specifically at in jurisdictional areas.
Yep, and sorry, I tried moving this figure the way my other PDF program works, and it's not happy with me at the moment in time.
If you want, I have the picture here. I can maybe share it.
Yeah, and you're seeing my screen, which is currently blinking rapidly?
Yeah. Let me see if I can improve on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that shows or not. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, but I don't know if Harrison and Brian were able to get the copies.
Yep, I have.
Yeah, so lengthwise there's at least a few hundred feet of road. And I guess what I would highlight with that is that we're close to the outer edge of the 100-foot buffer zone, and that the length of it I would say is less important than the 12-foot width, which then because this area is so flat is generally flowing by sheet flow over agricultural fields, vegetated area, that sort of thing, toward the resource areas at a very flat grade. And again, I guess when the field is tilled, it's not really vegetated, but otherwise it is. Generally speaking, when we're talking about work that is widthwise relatively limited at that distance from the resource area on a really flat site, that water takes quite a long time to work toward the resource area, and over that land it has the potential opportunity to infiltrate, probably not as much on this site where the soils are not so good and the groundwater's high, and also to settle out what sediment is carried by the road. What we find working in a lot of towns is that sort of that work right near the edge of the buffer zone, if that's the extent of what's in jurisdictional areas, is typically allowable under the negative determination for work in the buffer zone.
So, but I mean, just so you're saying at least a couple hundred feet, 200 to 300 feet long, that stretch of 12-foot wide road?
Yes.
So, I mean, we're talking about, obviously thousands and thousands of square feet of what is currently tillable agricultural land being converted to a driveway or part of a driveway. I'm just trying to figure out how you could be absolutely correct that it's not going to impact the resource area to the south. I'm just used to more obvious minimal impacts than this. Because the alternative is just to do, all your work is just to do a notice of intent and to figure out all these issues on paper rather than just sort of speculating about them. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on not so much the agricultural exception aspect of things, but as to whether or not the work within the buffer zone is. There's also this parking lot.
I was going to ask about the parking lot. I'm not seeing it anymore. Did the parking lot go away?
No, it's just only the portion that's in the buffer zone is shown on this third plan. If you go up to the second plan, the whole parking lot is there.
Oh, maybe I missed that.
Okay, scroll up.
So again, that is going to be what? Is that blacktop or is that going to be just stone?
That's also stone.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no pavement proposed at all.
And then there's
so it's trap rock material.
Correct.
So when you go in there and you have somebody go in and develop that driveway, you are going to dig down, remove, and add. So everything that you remove is going to go away, and you are going to bring in suitable base, and then trap rock or something similar, so the roadway can drain if it rains.
Correct.
Okay, so. Oh, all right. So, who knows if there's, if it's mucky soil or is it clay underneath there or whatever, but whoever's doing the excavation is going to learn that.
Well, that's sort of why
most likely it's going to be better than what's there. So that place is nothing but a wet area.
That's why it'd be it'd be interesting to see a little more detail on the stormwater plan. We don't have the stormwater plan, obviously, but
I would really like to see what's below that, as I expressed earlier.
One of the things that we've run into a lot in Hatfield is that if land was not farmed upon, it would be wetlands. You know what I mean? So the constantility of the land keeps, wetlands or like wetland plants from growing or wetlands from forming, but for the agricultural use, they would probably turn into wetlands. They have lots of hydric soils and all of that sort of stuff going on. Do you have was that assessed at all? I know that there was a determination of the wetlands themselves and the ditches and but were there any tests on the soil to see, what was going on with those?
So
yeah, that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see some test drilling and see what's there, so if you do add your driveway and what's underneath it. Can we can we have some proof of what's there? So there's better drainage for, the occupancy of what we're doing here.
And I kind of feel I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but when you're thinking about the potential impact of this 12-foot wide new driveway, it's all kind of connected to what's next to it. You have these 100,000 square feet of greenhouses with a 12-foot wide driveway next to it, and then X number of feet until the wetlands. It seems that although that little section of road is only kind of within it, the potential impacts coming from the north could be significant.
Yes.
So the way I'll answer that is that may be, but stormwater discharges that occur outside the buffer zone are out of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And I'm not trying to be aggressively argumentative at all on this. I've had to deal with that question before on different projects. And so to the extent that runoff from that greenhouse is captured and dealt with outside of the buffer zone and then released outside the buffer zone, which is what we're proposing to do as far as this plan is concerned, then even if it then flows into the buffer zone, unless and until it actually alters the resource area, then it's not jurisdictional. And our intention is to design that stormwater system per the town stormwater bylaw, which is going to require meeting all the water quality standards and everything else before it gets released outside of the buffer.
Yeah.
And if we can't achieve that, we'd have to come back to request permission to build into the buffer zone with it.
It's really kind of tucked right up against the edge there, right? Is that on the map there?
It is, yeah.
And okay, so then this other parking lot behind the greenhouses, or to the west of the greenhouses, that's not an improvement of a road, right? That's
correct.
That's the building.
That is new work.
And as is was there going to be a building built?
There is, yes.
All I see is references to the septic system. I don't see the building itself. Unless at least it's not labeled. You have the septic system, and then you have the gray square. Is that the building? That
is the building, yes.
Okay, it's the arrow going to it just says septic system. But that is a building that is correct. Also within the buffer zone.
Yes.
And you're not relying on the normal maintenance of that is what another building a building is also another non-alteration on your theory?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I do not.
Okay. Well, so the question presented to us is, well, there's two, right? So I think we can take these separately.
Yeah, potentially three if you do want to divide the two types of potentially exempt work.
Okay, right. So,
Bob, I just want to. I feel that for the better, I think there should be some test sites to go ahead and see, what's underneath that soil, to make sure that everything's gonna, I think it would be for the better for the, company wanting to establish their business there, to know about what's underneath, and make sure that things are going to flow correctly. It's just me. I'm just asking. That's all. I'm suggesting. I'll leave it at that.
So, well, that has not been done as part of this application, right? So we don't have that information that Mike's talking about.
Correct.
Is that something that would typically be done in the context of an NOI?
If we were designing stormwater that were within jurisdiction, it would. If the plan did not require stormwater management, then there really wouldn't be any other reason for us to do soil samples.
Gotcha. So let's just take these one at a time, I guess. The first being what's being requested in terms of the culvert is a -5 determination, which is a determination that, quote, the area described in the request is subject to the protection under the Act. Since the work described therein meets the requirements of the following exception as specified in the Act and the regulations, no notice of intent is required. And that is I'm just writing this down. That is, you said 310 CMR 10.04, is that right?
10.04, that's correct.
MR 10.04, and it was B.
This gets a little weird because the different definitions don't have section numbers. So then under 10.04, there's the definition of agriculture, and under that, there's a section B7.
Okay, I'll just write that. And the So so the exempt activity is the culvert, B7, and the improvement of existing roads.
So that's that same definition of agriculture, section B3.
I feel like, and I'd hear everyone else on this. I feel like it's part of our due diligence if we're going to entertain this as the improvement of an existing road. We should go look at what constitutes the existing roads. That's my inclination on that particular point. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
It makes sense.
I can go out with Bernie or something if he wants to.
Yeah, and if you go out, Bernie, and just take some pictures, just so we know what it is that we're talking about. It seems to me, based on your description, at least, the culvert seems to make total sense. It seems to make sense under the exemption that you're talking about, the repair or replacement of the culvert. Although it would be really nice to have a description, or a detail of what that work is going to be. But that said, if it's exempt, it's exempt. I mean, that's part of that. So that leaves us with all the other work that's going to be done in the buffer zone, which includes the building of the building of part of the parking lot, the 12-foot wide road, and the installation of the septic system, which at its closest is 50 feet from the wetland.
Correct.
And that would be a request for a negative.
I would say 3, maybe.
I think that's right.
Okay, so that would be the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations. That's undisputed, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the Act. I got to be frank, I'm having a hard time making that determination based on what's been presented. But I'd be happy to hear everyone else. I mean, we can entertain a vote on it or whatever, but does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I'm having a hard time determining how far into the buffer zone. It's not, I don't see anything that shows me exactly how far in the buffer zone you're going here. You can sort of guesstimate, I guess, but like that road, how far into the buffer zone is it?
Right, I dimensioned the other work quite a bit more clearly, but it is, I will give you an exact measurement because I can do that on my other screen. So I'm not going to try to estimate that. Yeah, I was a little more careful dimensioning the building and the septic system and everything like that. But I can tell you that the road through that first portion is 58 feet out from where we flagged the wetland.
That's the closest point during.
Yes, that's the closest point. The rest of it is further than that.
Okay.
So, do we take a vote now? Do we collect more information and table this? What does everyone want to do? I know that time has been of the essence, and this was an advanced hearing for that purpose, but
we also have to deal with.
Can you put those? Go ahead, Brian.
We have we're missing that one note number 8 too. We have to kind of deal with how we would deal with that as well.
And I presume we're also missing 6 and 7 because we have 1 through 5.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I didn't notice what even 6 and 7 were, but I just noticed what 8 was. So personally, I feel like at this point, I don't have enough information to do a -3 determination on this project. That doesn't mean that we can't collect additional information by getting those missing notes, having a site visit that determines what the current state of the road is and more of a sense of exactly what's being proposed as improvement of that existing road. But that is in the end up to the applicant whether we want to put this over for additional fact finding, or whether, you know, I've sort of transmitted what my vote would be without that additional fact finding, and I have no idea what it would be with it. So what do you think, Brian?
Well, I sort of agree that more information would be good. We definitely want to get the existing road thing settled. It seems a little vague right now. What are the existing roads? Need to find that out for sure. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a fair amount of work in the buffer zone. In general, that's kind of my feeling. I know it's 50 feet is about the closest, I guess. That
57.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, this is critical to get a crop in this year. I'm not trying to shove it through, but to me, it doesn't seem like critical issues that can't be worked through. But I don't know, Chris, what can you add? Like for the project you did in Whately and Scott Jackson approved.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that it's relevant, similar facility in Whately, we built a similar amount of greenhouse, and in fact built the greenhouse with disturbances up to the 25-foot buffer, and had a significant amount of greenhouse within the buffer, and that did go through with Scott with an RDA. Obviously, this is a completely different commission, so we say that as informational. And I would add, just reflecting on some of the questions about runoff of those areas in the buffer. I've been in the position with Mark Stinson, who obviously isn't there anymore, where I've proposed stormwater management for work more extensive than this in the buffer. He had an issue with it because we didn't quite meet some technical grounds for the stormwater standards, and his suggestion was to delete the stormwater management because then it could pass the Wetlands Protection Acts. So to the extent that the wetland protection regulations are really scrutinizing the conversion of pervious area to impervious, it's really written around, if there are discharges, then they shall comply with the stormwater standards. I have, mixed feelings on that, but I want to provide that again as some consideration.
Bernie,
yeah,
can you express why it is very important to move on with this so the commission can understand the importance of why this needs to be done, pushed more now than it would be. Okay, can you express that part of it?
Sure. Mike, I'm going to pass that along to my partner, Jared Glansberger, who's more well-versed in those issues.
Hi, guys. So
okay.
This is Jared. So Mike, so this is an agricultural product. We need to get this in to the CCC in time for the outdoor growing season. And so we're really just up against Mother Nature here. And so that's really the urgency, is we really need to get this in to the CCC as quickly as possible for them to go through their very extensive licensing process, which can take a significant amount of time. And so this going, many weeks, if not months longer, really does create a binding constraint for us on, on helping get licensees into the ground this year.
Okay, so the quicker that we resolve this situation, you could foresee your application to proceed. And I understand, because I'm a farmer as well. So is Harrison, and so is many people. So you need to go ahead and get a confirmation so you can proceed. Otherwise, you're going to lose that window of opportunity.
That's exactly right. That's exactly how to get
it. And our intention, again, after reflecting on the conversation we had 2 weeks ago, was to really try to pull things back to the bare minimum that these guys need to get started, with fully acknowledging that we're almost certainly going to be back with an NOI to deal with some of the additional work that we do want to do on the interior of the site.
Okay, so Bob, I guess we need to, and everyone on board need to focus on getting, persisting on getting some answers, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, I felt like there was some unanswered questions. And if I can just sort of, as an aside, you mentioned a project in Wheatley.
Yes.
That did that project involve a septic system, a separate building, parking lots, and a 600-foot driveway? Or was it just greenhouses?
It was greenhouses. There were other structures as well, but it did not include a building. With the septic system, what I will say about that is that the Wetlands Protection Act presumes the septic system itself is protective of the resource area as long as it's at least 50 feet away. It's the construction impacts that are the jurisdictional work.
Okay, yeah. So
okay. So I have a question. Sorry to interrupt. Can this project be like staggered, or do we have to go to full boat? In other words, can we, do the culvert and then do the greenhouses and then maybe the possibility of buildings later, or, to get everything flowing for you right now? I'm just saying, piece it
Jared,
together then. Can we?
Jared.
Yeah, I mean, so it is possible to do that. And I think Chris, in this go round, tried to pare it back to what was, what was most feasible, I believe, right, Chris?
Yeah, based on our conversations. What I'm hearing is the question of, is the building and the septic system mission critical at this stage?
Correct. So can this be inputted later? I mean, as an addition, so you can go ahead and get yourself rolling and say later on, can you function without a building? Can you function without the septic? And say, bring in, portable,
yes.
You know what I'm getting at?
Yes, definitely.
And just get this thing rolling, to get your growth and your established. And then in other words, it's like building something on your existing property later is what I'm getting at, initially to help you out to get the formalities, taken care of to keep on going forward.
Definitely, Mike. We definitely can put things off, like the building and the septic.
Right. And can you maintain what you're going to do without that building and the septic? In other words, you could have like Ricky's porta potty come in and do the, have
yes.
Porta potties come in, like the building.
That's what we would use.
What is the building for? You know, what is the building going to do? You know, can you change that and say, well, we don't need that right now, but get the whole thing established, and then come back to us and say, hey, we want to put a building in, we want to put a septic system in. I think you're going for the full boat, but you know, if you could just get started, and then you can apply and be going on, you know.
It kind of sounds like you're not going for the full boat, though. Like, what is the full boat? You just said that you're most likely to be back in front of us with an NOI for the interior development. What is that exactly?
Well, I think that's the plan that you saw 2 weeks ago, which includes more parking areas and fence around those rear fields, as well as the potential for storage lockers, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, once you get established, you know, get it forward, and then come back to us and say, hey, we want to put a septic system in, and we want to have a building for, you know, housing, whatever. So, but this would give you the, you know, the doorway to start, you know, start the greenhouses and get your product in. Being a farmer, that, you know, you just don't, you know, it's critical to go ahead and have your growth so you can sell.
Right.
And
Exactly
produce.
right.
So,
Exactly right.
So why don't, you know, just, I guess, Bob, what we have to do is, you know, have them look at the fact of just getting established, and then they come forth later on and say, okay, we're going to put a building up as an addition, you know, to what they have today.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah. No, and don't get me wrong. From what I can see here, this would be 100% permittable with an NOI. I think the question before us is whether this truncated version of an application is really appropriate for the amount of work that's being proposed. It's not a question of permitting at all. The permit is, I think, is certainly, you know, it's a permittable project. No question. The question
I totally hear that. And actually, to fill in some detail on one of your previous questions, I am going to show you that plan from 7 River Road. So this is an agricultural ditch, much like we're dealing with here. That's the jurisdictional wetland. This is the 100-foot buffer that I'm tracing right now. And so this entire area was constructed as greenhouses on a gravel pad, which intrudes into the buffer area with several thousand square feet of construction and to within 25 feet. And then this entire field is also closed in with security fencing, which was run right at the 25-foot line. And again, that has no bearing precedent on you, but you know, you did ask the question, so I wanted to share it accurately.
Is there any BVW on site?
Yeah, I was going to ask that same question.
Because that's a little bit different than an agricultural ditch, and that's because we're dealing with sort of a different animal in terms of the protected resource area here.
And I was a little cavalier there. So this portion is a ditch that became wetland area. These areas here are cultivated agricultural field that had soils and plant growth indicating the potential for wetland areas, and the edge of the site was forested with wetlands. These areas back here are more of a wooded wetland area. Obviously, we're not building this significance over there, but we did have the fence installation.
All right. So does everyone feel, what does everyone want to do? Does everyone feel like they want to not collect any more information, take a vote on this as it is? I mean, we're also, if we're going to be saying, if you're going to be saying, you know, we're not requesting the septic and we're not requesting the building and we're not requesting other aspects of the project, that's something that has to be made pretty clear at this point. Rather than just the idea, it has to be, you know, because our permit will say the plan that has been provided is, you know, which is, we haven't really been provided with that alternate plan at this point. So time is of the essence. We're meeting in 2 weeks. Is that going to bust your CCC stuff? Or what? Or I mean, when exactly this was filed? Like 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? Originally, or when was this actually filed with us?
Was it right at the beginning of January? I honestly don't remember. Time is.
Yeah, so it was filed like 3 weeks ago. I don't feel like we've been dilatory in our approach to this project. I understand the time is of the essence, but I also don't want to be, pushed.
It was filed the Friday before last meeting, and unfortunately, it would not have made that meeting anyways, regardless, because it was too late to be filed for that meeting.
Right. So it's been
to be posted in the Gazette.
It's been less than 3 weeks since this was originally filed. I mean, I'll certainly hear you on whether or not tabling this until our next meeting so we can get a sense of these existing roads and you can get a sense of what you want to take out of your plan. If I'll certainly, I'd be interested to hear like whether that is a game changer for you these 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I mean, the idea that you filed 3 weeks ago and then 1 or 2 more weeks would sort of tank your entire business plan seems odd, but I certainly hear you on it.
Well, it's very critical to go ahead. I think the commission is going to work with you and try to get this resolved. I understand the growth part, and not only the growth part, but actually establishing the greenhouses and everything and get you in there and the drainage and all that. You're not going to be doing much drainage during this time other than spring. That's going to be difficult, but to get yourself rolling and get yourself established with saying, yes, I have a place to, and then you can, you'll be established, as far as your end. And then later on, we can discuss the other opportunities that you need to do.
Yeah, because I think honestly, my hope is not to. When I say tanking on a project, I'm being sincere. I don't want to. If this 2 weeks is going to make all that much difference, our last meeting, the concern was a purchase and sale agreement and a closing. It wasn't agricultural, and at least that's not how it was presented in our last meeting. So I'm just trying to orient myself to where things are at now.
Not to beat a dead horse. Obviously, time is of the essence, but we're not putting up any greenhouses now. It's that critical. We don't have time to put up greenhouses. We're not going to do the septic. Mike, I agree with you 100%. Get the ball rolling.
Or the ball or the building. So you basically need our blessing to go ahead and go forth so you can put the paperwork in. Is that correct?
And that makes more sense.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that the permit is necessary for future permits. Not so much you need to start building your greenhouses on February 20th or something.
Okay. So you need our signatures to go ahead and go forth to go ahead and say yes to whoever you are commissioning to say yes, we have this occupancy to continue on, and then that way there you can further go. Is that correct?
Definitely. Exactly.
And what I'm hearing from my other team members, and they can butt in if I'm mischaracterizing this, but it sounds like what's mission critical is fence around an outdoor field in that field number 1 where the greenhouses are eventually proposed so that they can literally grow plants in the ground.
Yes.
And then the gravel access roads to get around the property. And then, of course, we want to be able to do the culverts as exempt activity as a long-term investment. Even that is not necessarily day one critical, but if it's exempt activity, that's sort of a moot question anyway.
So Bob, you know, I don't know if, you know, if this is a grant funding or whatever, but it's, you know, once, once you establish, you know, saying that you're going to do this and you have our consideration and everything, that's how they can go forward, you know, and there's a time limit on everything. So if they have a place to continue what their aspect is, and with our blessing and everything, then they can go forward. That's the really the beneficial thing for the, you know, this farm.
And in terms of just focusing on the fencing for a moment, at the north end of the fence goes directly through the resource area, right?
I don't believe that's.
If that's that long long if that's the fence.
Oh, that's the property line.
That's the property line. Okay, great.
Yeah,
so the fence is the circles and the lines?
Circles with the lines, yes.
Just around the greenhouses for the most part?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, again, in the long-term plan, we would be back with a proposal to fence in the rear fields, but we've eliminated that from the current request. So it's just to fence the greenhouse field.
Okay. So just bring me what are we being asked for now? Is it just the fence, or is it, I mean, or what is on the table? I just want to make clear, because I'm not.
The fence, the roads.
You said you talked to people who said, yeah. The fence, the culvert.
So yes, the culverts, the improvement of the access to the rear fields, and the gravel road entering the site that runs through the buffer, and the bits of fence that are in the buffer that encircles the greenhouse field. We would not be seeking the building, the septic system, and I would say at that point, we don't need the parking lot associated with the building currently, because we can build parking in non-jurisdictional area within that field, which is part of the plan that you see.
Chris, and the whole team, did you guys ever consider putting that road on the other side of the site, on the north side of the greenhouses, or just does that not make any sense?
We did. We run into the part of the agricultural field that is wetland, which I can point out briefly. Again, I worry that this thing is going to start flashing again. Is going to be unseeable, but see, there it goes.
So Bob, are you looking at maybe voting on this tonight and saying, with all those exemptions from that, we could pass it tonight?
Well, no, I mean, I would certainly, you know, if someone wants to so move and it were seconded, we could vote on it. My preference would be to, again, to look at and this does not include the roads, the improvement of the current roads.
Right. So, you know, they could change their wording and submit it, and we could sign on it and close on it tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we run into, Mike, is that this is a notice meeting on a particularly described set of work. I just don't know. I just want to make sure that we're not running afoul of the public meeting law or the notice by changing substantively the plan that's in front of us and voting on it right now.
So
have them change it. Have them change it, and then let's have a short meeting and close on it in the future.
Well, we're meeting in 2 weeks anyway.
That's why I was asking specifically about 2 weeks, because we are meeting again in 2 weeks. It would give us an opportunity to look at the current roads, to make any adjustments to the scope of the work, to notice it, or we have to renotice it. It'd probably be better to renotice it.
Okay, so Bernie, is that going to work out?
No, Jared.
Are you close? Would it work out for you doing that, or is it do we need to meet sooner?
Well, when do you guys go before the planning board? Don't you have to get planning board approval anyway?
We were just before the planning board.
And what is the status of your application before them? Did they approve? Or are they saying we're waiting to hear from the Conservation Commission, which is what they say often?
The impression that we got was that the Conservation Commission approval was the more was the sort of the one that was more heavily weighted in this project.
So they're waiting on us.
All right,
There was no application submitted. There was no application submitted with the planning board.
But there needs to be one at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you need to change what you're asking for, and then when we get together, we can review it and decide what we're going to do, and then you can go forward with that to the planning board.
That seems fair.
Okay, you're in 2 weeks.
The 10th, February 10th, 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay. Okay.
And Harrison,
if it's a brand new submission, then the notice has to go out again Thursday at the latest. It's got to be posted next Thursday at the latest.
I don't think this is a new application. It's an amended plan under this current application. Bob, would you agree with that? Or
yes. But we'll just put into just submit because the notice says that this is a marijuana cultivation facility. The plan, just send the amended plans to be on file. So the plans are still on file, but there'll be amended plans on file.
Yeah.
You need to do a new public notice. We'll just need to take a vote to table this until our meeting on the 10th. I think that's all we need.
Okay.
Put on the record that we're so I would entertain a motion to table this and continue it.
Very quickly,
Sure.
Chris was beginning to answer my question about the road being on the north side of the property, and we got into we got off track there.
Yeah, it started to display my screen and it flashed, but we'll sketch out. And it's certainly something that we can look at closer. But if we follow this line in here, we're pretty good. But at some point, we run into a really wet part of the field, which you can see here. It's wetland and it gets pretty mucky there. Yeah. So that didn't seem desirable to try to bring that road around the fenced area. So that's the main reason why we chose the route we did.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Bernie, you're the applicant. Do we have your permission to continue this over for 2 weeks from now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then, if someone wants to move and second, then we can just vote on that and call it.
So moved.
I'll second
it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that's it. Sorry about this stuff, Bernie.
Do your homework.
We understand.
Do your homework.
We'll get the info
that
we need. And do you currently own it? Is it okay if we just go on our own and walk the property, or do we need permission from anyone, or does anyone want to meet us there to sort of go over where these currently existing roads are and that sort of stuff?
Chris, you have time?
No, but I'll make time anyway.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I don't know when would be the best time to do it. I know we're supposed to get snow, which is going to make it harder to see things.
Yeah.
As of Saturday.
Right.
I don't know if it'd be possible to do it tomorrow, or hopefully I think it's supposed to rain a few days later, so that snow might disappear. I don't know.
Right, it's supposed to warm up after.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go on a warm day. Let's do a warm visit.
Wish for spring.
Yeah. See if the groundhog sees its shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe it's actually supposed to be both warm and rainy later next week.
So let's get rid of the snow. All right. Well, is there a particular time that might work for you? I have a hard time in the morning because I drop my son off. I have to drive to Greenfield and be there by 8 with him in the morning. And then I don't usually get home till after dark. So I don't know if anyone else has any more flexibility than I do this time of year. hearing nothing, I'll maybe I can I just give you a call, Chris? And,
Sure.
and a time. Keep an eye on the weather. I'll give you at least a couple days notice and see what works. And
yeah, that sounds fine.
And I'll just invite anyone else who wants to come to do that, and then we'll be all set for next time.
Great.
Thanks.
Great. Appreciate it, guys.
Good.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Oh,
Thank you. Good night.
we got to vote to adjourn. Okay, we'll see.
Hold on.
Yeah, we'll move to
We
adjourn.
can just leave.
I'll move to it. You guys can leave. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are dismissed.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. I feel bad, but what are you gonna do? I mean to be fly in the ointment. I'm just. It just seems I don't think we've ever done this much on an RDA. This much work.
I just wish they submitted an NOI to begin with. I don't know why they didn't.
It feels all like a bit of a rush job.
Yeah. Yep.
And I understand the agricultural rush job aspect of things that Mike you were talking about, but this seems like there's a different kind of rush job going on here, and I'm I want to accommodate it as much as we can, but I also think we got to at least do some due diligence on it. So
Yeah, and getting out there to see it, I think will be hopefully very helpful.
yeah, for sure. So, all right, I guess we'll adjourn. I'll move to adjourn, and it'll be seconded, and we'll all vote for it because it's 8 o'clock. Goodness.
It's 8 o'clock. All right. Thanks, everybody.